Today, I'm going to show you my method for level 100 with roughly 10 minutes damage left on the fleet. Hey everyone, Derpy here, welcome back to another Battle Pirates video. As I get started, I would like to say I'm not using a crew, I'm using 4 ships which were built with no coins for this raid cycle. As usual, I did save up 5 tokens from the TLC and 1 from Pillage to do a 6-day upgrade. I've got 1 ship up to X1, which is the burnt orange ring you're seeing. I did this partially to just see how effective it is, and because it also has worked out, I've taken less damage every time in the past. In this target, there are a few things you want to be aware of. First of all, the one key I can give you is you want to chain off the ammo carriers to kill things for no damage. If you're at all interested in trying something, that's what you should do. You should also be aware that you can outrange a few turrets, meaning the short-range scatterguns, as well as the ships, which are these heavy cruisers. Those things should die really easily, especially if you use the ice fields. The other thing you should be aware of is that these missile turrets can hit you, they will do some damage, and they'll generally try and hit the flagship. Now, you can reduce the damage across your fleet by wiggling out one ship at a higher upgrade or a higher evade just out in front here if you want to do that much driving. I generally don't, so I usually take a little more damage than that. The main damage element in this target is actually the Kodiaks, these ships right here. You want to try and engage 1 or 2 at a time, not 3 at a time, otherwise your countermeasures can get overwhelmed. With that said, let's go through and start the target. Make sure you don't kill this ammo cruiser generator till the end, because these things are your friends. They are very good at chinning off of and also using the ice fields. To get started, let's go ahead and take down one of these gates or the short-range scattergun turret, whichever we get into range of first. This is fine, they're going to chain off the gate onto the ammo carrier and kill it. Works great, I'm not too worried. You do want to try and go relatively quickly though, so you can use the advantage of the ice field. You are not impacted by the ice field, but all the enemy ships are, which works out very nicely. So go ahead and trigger the Kodiak here, pull it towards you, shoot at it a few times, and keep shooting at it till the others are in range, and then run away here so they stop shooting at you. At this point, my flagship's already taken a lot of damage, and noticed how these 3 ships died. They outranged me, they still die, it works out pretty well. Next up, let's go deal with the left side of the target right here, use the outside of the gate, trigger off of this one, try and just get the U3 ship shooting if possible, because U3 does have a higher chaining range, so I'm not going to kill these turrets 100% with a mix of U2 ships in my fleet, but I am going to get a decent amount of damage onto a few things here, which works out pretty well. And if you get lucky on crits, this turret on the left here, this drag scatter, should die. If you don't, oh well. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and kill this missile turret right here, but I'm not going to tank with my flagship, it already has some damage. I'm going to pick something else, which is going to be my 4th ship right here, and move that one slightly out ahead, move forward, shoot at this guy a few times, and that should be that. Should chain on to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 even if I get lucky. If you're a little further away than the chaining range, which is hard to tell, you won't get all of that. Next up, I'm going to trigger one of these heavy cruisers, which is the only one left, and then run away because I want to outrange this thing and outrun this thing. If you do have Hyper 30, it should be really easy, especially if you have 1 ship at X1. A bit of a note on the combat speed bonus here is that combat speed actually has effectively a duplicate ore cap count of 1, which means it's not going to give you any benefit for having 2 ships at X1 in terms of the enemy combat speed, although it will affect the enemy reload a little bit more. I'll go over that in a little bit more detail in some other video, I think. Next up, I don't want to go ahead and kill the left side here because that would kill the ammo cruiser generator, where I want a few of them to be able to engage these ships, so I'm going to move back to the right and kill this missile turret right here. Again, pick a ship that has very little damage on it and move that out front so you can just shoot at one of these. Now, it does take a few volleys to get down here, which is perfectly fine. You will also notice when I am moving, you see a green ring out in front of my ships. This is actually a ramming aura. It does damage to things. I'm not using it. I'd rather stay at max range if at all possible, although it might help against one Kodiak in one particular instance. The next thing you want to do is chain off this ammo carrier and kill the missile turret, which I'm going to do right here. It is pretty close to range, so go pretty slowly here, and forward, down arrow. Pretty standard thing. Chain off this one onto a few other things around here, and you should get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 even targets hit right here, which is pretty nice. Alright, most things died there. Let's go ahead and trigger these heavy cruisers and pull them over the ice field so they're much slower and much easier to engage. Perfect, right like that. The swarm time will kill them, and those ships are dead. Next up is this Kodiak right here. This is going to be a little tricky. I'm going to want to kill the ammo carriers right here so there's an ice field in the way. I don't think things are close enough to actually chain from, so you can't really do this thing right here for no damage, but you can reduce the damage you take by having the enemy sit in an ice field, at least all these ships you're about to trigger right here. Okay, they're triggered, pull them away in the ice field, slow down so you're still shooting at something, and make sure they don't quite get out of the ice field there. A few shots off here, and my ships are getting pretty pummeled right there. I did have ship 2 closer, although I think the flagship for some reason still took the damage, which is more than a little bit annoying. Alright, heavy cruiser, outrun that one, perfectly fine. The only thing left here are these 2 ammo cruisers, ammo carriers, and the ammo carrier spawner, as well as 3 turrets. Those turrets are going to go down. Again, take one ship that has less damage out in front if you can, but don't worry too much about that for this last turret. Now, the next one, the scattergun, you should be able to outrange, and I'm going to do that just here, coming directly opposite the missile turret, so you have the greatest chance of outranging that one as well. And that should chain onto a few things, and that should be the target complete. Just about 6 minutes to complete the target, which is not horrible. You can rush it a little bit further and get it done a little bit earlier. Go ahead and review the path if you'd like to see just exactly what I'm doing. With that said, let's go ahead and check the damage, the battle report, and the build. In terms of the damage taken, it is 100% penetrative damage, 0 corrosive damage. If you auto, expect lots of corrosive damage. Generally speaking, you get corrosive if you mess up. If you don't, you should only take penetrative. I will mention this evaded stat, while it does say 74%, is a little bit misleading because it counts both evaded and countermeasured. In terms of damage taken, it is 12 minutes and 21 seconds. Unfortunately, this is not instant repair because at least 10 minutes of that is on the flagship, which is more than a little bit disappointing. If I'm considering building a 90% evade tank that has 1 or 2 faster combat speed, but we'll have to see just how that goes, and maybe stay tuned to the last day of the raid or so for that. Should prove an effective strategy for raid 2, however. The actual damage taken is shown here. I mean, very little, and here's the build. Like I said, one ship at X1, that's a damage version. Another ship is a countermeasure version. 2 of these are countermeasure versions. Make sure countermeasure ships have the Pretorius defense system, otherwise they're not going to be effective at all. You need to have a countermeasure special system for your countermeasures, otherwise they won't work. Here's the flagship, again a damage version setup because it does have higher base UAV damage. I would mention if I built these things from scratch today, knowing that the X1 Aura exists, I probably would have gone with Guidance Core number 3 over Hyper 30, at least on the fly here, but it's too late to know that for these targets. With that said, go ahead and take a look at the build. It should be in the description as well. And as always, thank you to the channel members who are supporting the channel and making these videos possible. Until next time, this is Derpy signing out, helping you be a better pirate.